we all are so different and we all have so many different life experiences. And to be able to just sit back and actually observe how someone operates instead of assuming that they operate in the same way that we operate, it allows for us to have a better understanding of that person actually really is trying. They just aren't trying in the way that I would try.
Welcome back to the Divinely Disruptive podcast. I'm your host, Jane Powers. Today in our studio, we have a new friend and she is a boss babe. Not only is she a coach, speaker, and master networker. So Jessica, welcome to our studio. And people that haven't met you yet, tell us a quick little bio of who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. What's up, family? I'm excited to be here. I am so grateful that you invited me on, and it's an honor and a privilege, and I'm just so grateful. You have such a bright spirit, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I feel like we're going to go to some fun places.
Oh, yeah. Welcome.
A little bit about myself. So I'll give you like location first, I guess. So born and raised in Virginia. I moved to LA when I was 19, did 6 years in LA. 4 years in Miami, 3.5 in Hawaii, moved to Vegas this year for about this past year. So I've kind of been all over the map. And in between that, I've put all my stuff in storage and gone to, Australia for a few months and Bali and Colombia for a few months and just done a lot of, I don't stay put very long. So there's a little bit about me is I really, really enjoy changing up my environment. I really enjoy meeting new people, experiencing new cultures. As far as business is concerned, I basically built in network marketing in my early 20s. I built a large organization of about 10,000 people and over $1 million a month in sales in about 3 years. And that led me to start working with sales teams and just pretty much go in and inject energy and optimization into organizations. And that kind of stemmed across the board in different organizations that personal development and growth was kind of at the foundation of, or the core of what they did. And so there's a few industries that I kind of played in because of that. So that was kind of business wise. And then this past year jumped into the tech space, got into the Web3 world. And so essentially business in a nutshell is I do peak performance coaching. So I help people feel and perform their best. And then I also do a lot of strategic partnerships because over all of these years of traveling and doing life, I've collected and connected some of the coolest people and brought a lot of ideas to life. So people call me to feel their best and perform their best or for my Rolodex. So that's kind of in a nutshell business wise. And then I guess me as a human, I believe that we're all just big kids at heart that somehow are living this adult experience. And so I'm very playful, very fun. I love the outdoors. I love getting into nature and going and exploring. I'm a very curious human. And but I also really, really am enthralled and just love humans. Like I love the human experience. I've been curious about understanding how we operate as humans for the last decade of my life and have kind of made it my life's mission to understand that and optimize that. And I think thoughts to things, turning something from a thought to a thing is probably the coolest thing on earth. So I think if you had to put Jess in a nutshell, those are kind of the little categories.
God, no. And I'm over here just like taking away a little bit. And I'm thinking, okay, this is not your average girl here in Vegas. Thank you so much for sharing. And for those that haven't met Jess yet, I met her at a networking event recently. And I kid you not, just your presence, like even right now, I'm an empath. So I'm kind of like shaking a little, like my vibrations are very high right now. And so when you explain what you do, what you specialize in, do you know I can actually feel that just with your presence? Like all of a sudden you just, I don't know, you're like getting me going. And the beauty is I love people that don't just walk the walk, but they truly talk the talk. And I went to this networking event just blindly, hoping to meet maybe one or two people that I could connect with. And you were wearing this beautiful cobalt blue dress that complemented your beautiful blonde hair. And this Giselle, you were just walking towards me. And I know you came to compliment my outfit, but I just looked at you in the eye and I'm like, I'm so sorry. I don't know who you are or what you do, but you are incredible. And I remember just breathing life into you. But little did you know that your existence alone was breathing so much courage and confidence. And, you didn't even know, but I just went through such a rock bottom journey recently and lost a great job, lost a whole community that I thought had my back. And boy, did I get humbled. And I walked into that network completely empty. And then when I saw you, I thought, okay, I don't know what she went through, but you are giving me courage to show up for myself. And when I show up for myself, I'm going to have a divine connection. And in that moment I met you, I thought, okay, there's hope. And it wasn't even you acting anything or saying anything specifically, but just you were showing up for me. And I remember when I was speaking to you, I could see it in your eyes. You were so receptive of me. And it's like, wow, I felt so lonely and so, disciplined in my faith walk that, gosh, the world's falling apart, my life's falling apart. But here's this random girl that's now a new friend of mine, just opened your heart and soul to me. So I just wanted you to know and be encouraged that, before we go on this awesome conversation about what we do and how we change lives, like you impacted me already. Like I know this is only the second time that we're meeting in person, but gosh, you are going to have such an impact. Even off the record, when you said, hey, Jane, it's only a Monday, doors are opening, opportunities are opening, but dang, you even opened up an opportunity for me. Like just meeting you is giving me courage to do this podcast. And I tell everyone, if this is the first episode tuning in to support you, Jess, watch the first episode. I nearly had a meltdown crying, talking about depression, anxiety, and borderline suicide. And here we are having this talk right now. So this is a very active, living, you can hear it in my voice right now, that we are all overcoming darkness. We are all overcoming this mental, depression or overcoming the pandemic. So as you're talking about what you do, you already empowered me in such a way where it's like, Jane, no matter what you went through, you're going to show up. And through my presence alone, I'm going to help you elevate and be what you are. So before we dive in and get into this amazing conversation, I just hope you digest that, because I can see powerful people, powerful players in Vegas. We don't often take time to also process the compliments and literal, real feedback that somebody's giving you face to face, because I could just intuitively see that you are a firecracker, you are a Giselle, you are a unicorn in this world. But sometimes you're moving so swiftly that you don't even have time to just take a moment and see all the lives that you are impacting simply through your presence, simply through the words that come out of your mouth. So before our audience see how brilliant you are, I just wanted you to acknowledge that you've already changed my life. You've already made an impact in my life. And this podcast is all about sharing stories and learning from influential people that have impacted my life in a very intimate way. So the fact that you're here showing up for me, I hope you know that's why you're here right now, is you've already impacted my life in such an intimate way. So thank you so much, Jess.
I am fully receiving that right now. And I cannot tell you, like, my heart, it is so full, but it is so it's like, I'm going to have to take this in and fully receive it, because I deflect a lot. It's just something I've always had a hard time receiving. Yeah. And it's been a huge intention of mine. It's like, well, Jess, if someone's giving you a gift, do you throw it back? No, you receive it. And so I'm like, receive what she is saying right now, Jess, you got this. But I can't even tell you, I had no idea. I had no idea, because you were such a light for me that night, that because I didn't know anybody there. And I was one of the speakers, and I just walked in and I had no clue what I was I had no idea what I was walking into. And then I saw you three, and I was like, they're so cute. And they just have the best energy. And I was like, I have to go compliment their outfits. And then I ran up to you guys, and you guys were just, it was like I was home after that. You know what I mean? So you don't know the impact that you had on me that night too. So thank you for that.
Of course.
Oof,
and man, I think that just speaks
oh
yeah, girl, I was shaking when you started talking. But I think that also, leads us to the topic of intuition, right? Intuition, manifestation. I know you're also all about that. So again, maybe I wasn't specifically manifesting a beautiful blonde boss babe. However, as I said in the networking, situation, I wanted quality over quantity. And again, I just overcame losing a great job that provided for so much. And then I went from 1,000 to 0, networking, going out, hosting parties, having all the fake friends that I thought I needed, to just literally -0. And so again, I know that there's so much beautiful things that are going to begin between us. And that's why having this podcast is so important for me, is for people to also see, when you manifest, when you envision what you deserve, when you believe in yourself, great things can happen even in your moments of self-doubt. And so I'm sure people who have met you or seen you on Instagram, or maybe seen you at an event speaking, tell us a moment when you saw the power of manifestation and also envisioning what you deserve.
Oh my God, girl. There's so many situations I could go down that rabbit hole for days. So I will say that you've mentioned multiple times this sense of release and surrender for where you're at currently right now, and the pruning that you're experiencing when it comes to your life, and kind of a renewal of friends, a renewal of new things that are coming into your path. And there's something inside of me telling me to tell you that in that pruning, the fruit is going to be on the other side. And for us to be able to have that growth, we have to go through the growing pains. For us to have that breakthrough, we have to go through that breakdown. For us to be able to have that, the contrast produces the clarity that gives us the clay of life to go create with. So that contrast that we experience is not good or bad, black or white, left or right. It just is. And that contrast is producing this newfound clarity on this new beautiful pathway that you are excited about taking. And then now you have the clay to go create with, and whatever we focus on grows. So we can either focus on the contrast or the clarity, one of the two. So you're taking the opportunity to focus on the clarity, and you now know what you want to create. You now know the intentional friendships you want to build and have. You now know the life that you want to go live day to day, because it's going to be surrounded by purpose and meaning, and it's going to be filtered through things that are way more in alignment with where you are right now. But sometimes every single thing in our life has to fall away for those things, so those opportunities can present themselves. And in the middle of that, it is the scariest thing, because you have to release all attachment to anything, any picture that you once had or known that you have in your life. Like the unknown has never let us down. But when we go from the shallow into the deep end and our toes start to barely touch, our physiology says, whoa, 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 what is this? What is this? What is this? But if you start to float at any moment in time, you're supported. And it's the craziest, coolest thing when you can get to that point where, we can't connect the dots looking back or looking forward. We can only connect them looking back. But if you know that, then if you set the intent for your life, you set the intent on what you're creating based off of these experiences that have given you a lot of that clarity, then you're moving down that path, and you can start seeing all of the little dots connect in real time. So that's, for me, manifestation. Like, I think it's living life with massive amounts of intent, yet complete detachment on the who, what, when, where, why, how, because it's not for us to know. It's for us to allow the unfolding. It's this highlighted path. For me, there's this like pull from my chest that I honestly experience. Like, I don't know how to describe it. It's very subtle, but there's just like you should do this, or you should walk up to those girls to talk to them. You should go compliment this person's outfit. And it's like subtle, but I could do it, or I don't have to do it. But if I did it, it's like, ooh, what's that path going to look like? But it's this highlighted little path. So manifestation, I mean, girl, when I tell you, I could give you the story of how I manifested moving to Hawaii in the most ridiculous house. I could go down men in my life I've manifested to a T. Like, you tell me which direction you want me to go in this, but yeah. I want to just give you a huge shout out for what you're experiencing right now, because that resilience and that grit that you need to go through, or that you're growing through right now, because you're growing through a lot right now, and we have to go through a lot in order for us to get to the next stage, of our lives, and for it to be meaningful and fulfilling. Like, nothing's supposed to be super easy. So that growth and evolution that you're having happen. Like, I'm so excited about seeing like what's on the other side. Like 3-4 months down the road with this podcast, you're going to be like cranking, girl.
No, thank you so much. And just like, even as we have a moment to celebrate each other and acknowledge where we're at. Yeah, it's crazy. Just like the moment you sat down, like I'm jittering. I don't know what you want to call it, but you're just so powerful, because even as you're sharing about that little subtle nudge, I mean, you can ask my husband and people that are close to me. I always questioned why I had that. And so same with when I came up to you and started that conversation, I could have turned it into a quick moment where you just complimented my outfit and I could have said, thanks, and walk away. But I also had a mutual nudge towards you. Like, okay, Jane, calm down. I know you're a jolly, extrovert, but you got to calm down. You got to let people get to know you, ease into your presence. But again, your bold fire, just something inside of you, Jess, I just wanted to tap into it. It was almost kind of not even envy or admiration, but dang, okay, she has a light that I haven't really experienced yet, but I know through time, I'll be able to, go through my journey and experience a little bit of what Jess has, right? So even as you're sharing, thank you for all this encouragement right now, is, man, I know when that time happens and learning to let go, because I know a lot of people listening and watching, they've also seen a shift in me. And I've already had a real talk with myself and journaled about this, is people aren't ready for the new version of me. I used to be a pushover. I used to be a doormat. I used to let people gossip about me, and I grew up Christian and believer of God. And so my parents always raised me, love your neighbors, love your sisters, love your brothers, treat people the way you want to be treated. Got abused and a lot of harassment growing up, even in the dating life. And now something's happening, including the moment that I met you, Jess. Like, I feel so honored that I'm meeting you right now, because this resilient, gritty girl, she was never there, but I'm so excited to unleash her. And I think that's why I feel so like vulnerable right now, is you're pulling it out of me. Like, you have magic. You're pulling it out of me, and you're letting me honor it, because so many people right now, they're afraid of judgment. They're afraid to, like you mentioned, what is on the other side. And when you talked about just letting go, and how, you can choose perspective, like clarity, or just keep worrying about what's going on. That really was some great wisdom that I needed to hear, because maybe a couple weeks ago, I was wondering, what did I do? Was it something that I did? And I would keep harping on the past. Like, maybe I should just find another job that's like that one, or maybe I should just go back to the friends that I used to have, because I feel so lonely. But this moment right now, like, I'm in awe. Like, I know we're both just human beings, but for you to even take time out of your day to sit with me, it's like, okay, maybe I'm something. And I say that very humbly, Jess. I'm like, okay, maybe I'm something, like that. You're more sitting next to you.
You're
and
such
so
a badass.
You're teaching me right now. And I know people listening and tuning in right now, this is our year, not just Happy New Year, not just new goals, new me, but this is our time to discover the best version of ourselves. And this is our time to truly level up. But I also do believe exactly what you just said, is you got to let go. You got to accept that what was is not going to be. And the new thing, the new friends, the new path, the new doors, sorry, it might be very uncomfortable. So you're really
Probably
giving me peace in that, right? So, for yourself too, just as you continue to level up, and even my few encounters with you, just you're already on another level. How was it leveling up your life, and, the people around you? How did they react? Because it's not always going to be a good job, Jess. I've always been a cheerleader because I was a middle child, and I always felt like unseen and not good enough. But how has that journey of leveling up been for you? Because I'm sure it can be lonely.
Wow. Yeah. So I think we have to normalize going through deaths and rebirths of ourselves over and over and over and over again. And it's like we're supposed to just go through this life and, I don't know, just we've arrived. No. You've never arrived. If you've arrived, you're dead. Like, you're growing or dying at all times. That's why I think just staying so true to a childlike nature where you're curious and playful as much of the time as possible. And yes, I'm saying go be serious and go get stuff done and like do what you need to do. Yet everything can somehow have an element of playfulness and fun about it. My favorite word of all times is fun. How can I make this even more fun? How can I make this even more fun? Because even work can be fun. Everything can be a little bit playful. It doesn't have to be so serious. And when it's not serious, then you actually emotionally, you're putting yourself in an emotional state that actually has access to more possibility than being in a denser energy that's, more swimming in the emotion and not really having access to even logic. So, and we'll talk about that a little bit more, but there's a return to sender on my energy at all times, and I'm aware of that. And so the more I'm in this higher vibe place, the more I'll rendezvous with people, situations, and circumstances that will also bring more of that in my experience. And that's what I'm available for. I'm really not available for anything else because we're on this earth to enjoy this life experience. Now, with all of that being said, I resonate with your story so much because I went through about 2 years of, it felt like funeral after funeral after funeral of human beings in my life that I care about. And they weren't dead. They were just removed from my experience in an abrupt way that just it made me lose faith in people a little bit. And I was like, in that moment of asking myself, how can I take responsibility for any part of mine that this, was, and how can I learn and grow from every situation and become better, yet at the same time, release attachment because I can't make anybody do or not do anything. And these were in business settings and it broke my heart. And, man, like I resonate so deeply with your story because I've experienced it. And so if I could go back and tell younger Jess anything, it would be to, one, just love thy neighbor. We have to live by that. We have to love everyone, you guys. Like we all want the same thing. We just want to be seen, heard, understood, acknowledged, loved. That's it. We just want to feel good and we want to be accepted by other human beings. So going back and really looking at that version of myself and then seeing kind of where I am now and then all of the different people that have shed away from my experience, but all new people, I will say it only gets better. It only gets better. It only gets better. It only gets better. Why? Because you get more clear. You get better at boundaries. You get better at understanding yourself. The harder you fall, the deeper you have to dig to get back up. And then the lighter and even more high vibe you can experience. It's like a trampoline almost. Like you bounce up so you can go to the extreme levels of darkness. The duality is real, but you experience even more heightened lightness on the other side of that. And if you know that there's the duality of life and everything is there to serve, then one isn't bad or good. One's putting you in training. One may be uncomfortable. One may be different than what you expected. It may not be fun all of the time, but it is on the other side going to be so worth it. And if you know that, then you don't have to go through this death and rebirth with this like horrible attachment and feeling. You kind of just start rolling with the punches a little bit more. You start observing your life and you're like, I wonder why things are transitioning right now. I wonder why this is showing up in my experience. What can I learn from this? It's like when your bags don't come into the airport, you can be angry and annoyed, or you can say, I wonder if I'm supposed to meet somebody in line at Starbucks while I go grab a snack. Like, you just don't know what you don't know. And it's all there to serve. So if you have that perspective, it creates a lighter load and a better vantage point for sure.
Yeah. No, you're just full of just powerful gold right now because again, I was so scared to do this podcast in the beginning because I was so scared to just go there in my darkness. And I know that I sent you a voice note today and I'm like, Jess, I'm still in the dark, but there's light in the dark. So even as you're sharing about the duality, right? Like when you hit the ground and you're, at rock bottom, that darkness, that pain, that funeral experience, when we allow ourselves that opportunity, I do believe in what you're sharing is that level up or that upside is so much brighter and greater. And man, like I've always been so intuitive with people, but now, as you can tell, when I see people, Jess, I see people. When I see kindness and purity and that childlike spirit, man, it's like, even though I had a moment of F everybody and I don't want anyone to get close to me, and you just become so bitter meeting people like you, it's like, no, Jane, there still is that childlike spirit inside that just wants to play. Like you said, they just want to be seen. They just want to be heard. So when I'm talking to you right now, Jess, I feel like I'm talking to a mirror, and I feel like so many thoughts, visions, and ideas, it's like we're echoing each other.
Yeah.
And that word alignment is just my thing right now, not just like a fad phrase, but just alignment truly has been my thing this year, because as you mentioned, that clarity, if we choose to focus on clarity, gets lighter and lighter. And I do feel like maybe 2 months ago, I felt like the world was on my shoulders. And as you mentioned, just as I continue to persist and I continue to move forward and not look back as often, perhaps the world still could be on my shoulders, but it got lighter and lighter because of the people that I was attracting. And so I know people watching and listening right now can definitely relate to what we're talking about. Is it's not easy to let go. And it's also not easy to go through such pain, but still tap back into our childlike spirit. And I do believe that is one of the most exciting things that caught my eye about you, Jess, is that childlike joy. Because, you know, I had this therapist give me an image one day, and it was almost like we're all walking in this mascot costumes. And like a mascot, whether it's a teddy bear or a circus clown or a bunny, it's this huge exterior, but inside was like this little girl just balled up, right? Girl, guy, whatever you want to call it, just a little child inside just balled up. And I feel like on the outside, if we're not careful, we just judge instantly on the mascot or the costume or this imagery that we want people to think. But really, it takes a very unique person like ourselves to see that child inside that's actually balled up. And you did that for me. It's like, yes, I was fierce. Yes, I had my outfit, makeup, and hair, but that was also kind of a costume. It was kind of my mascot, Jane Powers. But you saw that little girl inside that was like, hey, I see you. We don't have to talk about it today, but I see you. So the fact that you did that for me, and I've been doing that for everybody, it just feels so neat, because I never thought that I was worthy or deserving of people who could also pour my cup. And I know a lot of people pleasers out there, or, you know, entrepreneurs or go-getters. You know, I'm a Capricorn, so we don't like to ask for help. We forget that, hey, we need our cup filled too. And hey, we need to be acknowledged too. And something that I've been really focusing on is we need to also check in with strong people. It's not an accident that suicide is going up. It's not an accident that people are self-harming. It's not an accident that kids so young are committing suicide. Is because people are not taking the time to check in and get real. And so I want to invite you and everyone listening and watching, like, hey, maybe they don't know you, maybe they don't know me, but through this podcast, like, I invite people to reach out, send us a message or email us or contact us on Instagram. Is like you said, this life experience on earth, we're all in it. And so when you were talking about, like, yeah, we should love others, we should love thy neighbors, we need to truly live and walk in it, because we talk about it, but I don't see a lot of people doing it. And so even for me, I don't like to talk about it often, but my own husband will always remind me, he's like, you need to stop talking about death. You need to stop talking about disappearing, because it's not funny. And I think that's another subject that people don't want to talk about, is we add comic relief to serious issues such as depression, anxiety, and suicide. And so again, just that when you keep bringing up that childlike spirit, it really ignites something deep inside me, because I've lost it. And I went to church recently, and I tell everybody I'm not religious, but I have a beautiful, special relationship with God and a higher power beyond me and the human existence alone. And I remember just having that moment where the pastor said, God or the divine, whatever you guys want to call it, a higher power, you should have joy again. And God wants you to laugh again. And so when I use the word God, whatever term it might be for anybody listening and watching, is the universe and beyond wants you to experience that childlike joy again and laugh again. And just like, I had a moment where I broke down when I went home, and I looked at my husband and I'm like, I don't think I've laughed in a while. Because there's a fake laugh, like the Instagram laugh, like, oh my God, hey girl, how's it been? And, you know, taking that selfie or taking that video when you like set up for the camera. But man, Jess, like, I can't tell you I've really laughed from my soul, from my gut. And it's been a long time, Jess, but just I can't wait to get back to that lightness again, where I feel so free in my existence. I feel so free in who I'm becoming. And something about you, Jess, too, it's really empowering me to unleash that. And so I feel like it's very important for us to be very mindful about our surroundings and our friendships. So for you, it might be just a common day or, you know, very common sense to be resilient, to be focused, to be, you know, energized. But for you specifically, what kind of people or friendship or support system do you have to keep you on track? Because I'll be the first to admit to you, Jess, most days I just want to give up. I'm just being real.
I need a notepad and pen. There's so many things I want to say when you're talking, and I just want to keep being present. And then when we finally arrive, I'm like, oh man, I want to go back to this. So it's, okay. So one, I'll talk about proximity with people around me, but another thing that keeps coming up that I really want to share with you is the one thing that helped me move forward when I was going through all of those it just felt like a shedding of everything that I knew to be true. And it was like my whole life was turned upside down. And that growth that I went through was the most important thing in my entire path. If I look back at the last 10 years of my life, I would not be where I am today if it weren't for that experience. And I know that whatever you're experiencing right now, this is exactly what you need to be going through. And I'm saying going through, but really it's growing through. This is exactly what you need to be growing through in order for you to live fully in your meaning and purpose in the way that you're supposed to. So like, I'm looking at myself, you're just not all the way through yet. You're almost there though. And I know you see it because the light is right there and you're seeing that. I know that because I can tell just by the language you're using. The level of compassion that was needed for me to let go of, you know, if somebody was going through something and they decided to make this decision based off of what they thought was best. The word sonder is my favorite word. It's the realization that every given passerby is living a life as vivid and complex as your own. So we're all the main characters of our movies. We all have different life experiences. We all were raised differently. We all have all of these different layers and filters, environments, jobs. Every last aspect of our life has been completely different from me to you, to you, to you, to you, every single person. So if you know that, then what I'm interpreting and what you're experiencing might even not even, I might even be completely off base. I'm only taking the reference points of my life experience and trying to relate to something that you're going through. I do think that we were put in each other's path for me to reflect all of this back to you. So I already know I'm here to share a lot of this because I went through that, and I know on the other side, what allowed for me to actually have peace was to finally detach from needing to know the outcome of all of the details that were showing up next, have complete surrender, have complete faith, and you know who, and know that there's something divinely guiding you in this very moment. And every single person that you feel betrayed by in your experience, they only can show up at the level of awareness that they're at, and they're only doing the best that they can from where they're at. And 9 times out of 10, if you give them 5 years, they'll look back and wish that they had probably done it differently too. And just like we go through stuff that we're like, oh man, I could have probably handled that differently. All of us are going to experience that at some point when we get to that level of awareness, or when we hit rock bottom enough to where we have to look in the mirror at ourselves and say, wow, I have to take full responsibility for where I'm at in my life right now. So just have as much deep compassion for humans that you're kind of releasing right now, because that was the only thing that gave me the peace and the freedom to then go create the proximity that I truly wanted from people that saw me. And I had to see myself first. I had to go to deep, dark places for myself and see myself and get to know myself, because you can only really meet somebody at the level that you've gone to with yourself. And you only go to those deeper levels when you're going through some shit. So like, you got to go there. And in those moments, it's not fun or comfortable, but you come out, and again, it's just worth it. Like, it's worth it. You're able to, life is so much more meaningful when you actually have gone, because then I can relate on a whole nother level to people and what they're experiencing, which makes it feel like loving thy neighbor and supporting thy neighbor and being there. I can see people better because I've been able to see myself in that way. You know what I mean? So proximity right now for me, to go back to your actual original question, was I would say 2 or 3 of my closest friends, they're very playful like me. We're like small kids. One of my best friends, Fiona, she is like the light. She's my spirit animal. It's hilarious. When we first met, it was so funny. Her and my best guy friend, I met my best guy friend on a plane like 10 years ago. And we sat next to each other. I missed the original flight. There was like snow or something. The plane took off. I missed the original flight, got rebooked onto this flight, got moved based off of some seat arrangement. And they moved me, sat next to Ross, and we've been best friends since. He went on a Bumble date with my now best friend, Fiona, and said, you have to meet my best friend, Jess. And so then we became best friends. And it was hilarious because when I first met her, it was like, you know, when you go and knock on your friend's door when you're like in middle school and you're like, hey, can Sally come out and play? It felt like that, but like grown adults. And I was like, oh yeah, we're going to vibe for sure. So I have people in my life that really stretch me in business that are good friends of mine. And I have people that stretch me in like play, and like it's be, do, have order of operations, right? Be, do, have. She helps me be. Fiona helps me be. There's people in my life that I have that help me like do at like high levels, because, you know, surrounding yourself with those people that have velocity and speed in what they're doing is really, really helpful. And then in that, I end up having as a byproduct so many different dimensions of myself get exposed and played with through friendship and through business relationships, that I would say proximity is, I mean, you are the sum total of your 5 closest associations. And so is your bank account, and so is your level of happiness. And so definitely choose wisely and, you know, invest in those relationships based off of what you would really love to receive back too. But again, the return to sender, like have a good return to sender on your energy. When you walk out of the door, you're going to rendezvous with the best people, situations, and circumstances, and they'll all be on the same wavelength, and you won't have to question anything.
No, thank you for sharing that too, because again, people probably listening to you, they're probably thinking, how is she so on point? Like, how is she so sharp? And it's really humbling too, Jess, when you were saying, no, Jane, like I've been through it too, but you had to shed and you had to let go. And even meeting people unplanned, I truly believe, you know, I don't know what you want to call it, but I love when you meet somebody that ends up being such a close friend, but you never forced it or planned it, right? Even just meeting with you right now, I already know this is a lifelong thing, not just a moment in time thing. And so I'm so proud that our childlike self did come out to play. And I love what you said about the be, the do, and then what was the last one you said? The have. Wow. Now that I think about the friendships that I want to encounter, of course, if I'm blessed enough, I can have all in one, but I do believe I need to be better in acknowledging, okay, Jane, some people, they're going to help you just be, help you relax, help you just be present, maybe go a little inward and spend some time to do a little bit more of inner healing. And then, as you mentioned, the do, where it's like, all right, Jane, you want to level up, you want to make more money, you want to save up for a house, let's go. But I also feel like life is all about balance. And I liked how you said, you know, I don't know exactly how you said it, but just about like the dimension, how sometimes our closest friends or the closest people we do encounter, it does reflect pieces of us. Mm-hmm. So as I kind of joked, like, oh, I guess I'm a little worthy and awesome to be here with you. But really, all jokes aside, just sitting here with you, Jess, you're reflecting a part of me that I know is in there. She's coming out, but she's coming out slowly, but she's in there. She's been acting cute, acting small, playing small. because my experience in Vegas, I love this city, a lot of opportunities, a lot of great people. Don't get me wrong. I'm just talking about my particular experience. I just felt like I went in too strong, too quick. And even my husband will tell me, Jane, you mean well, your intentions are well, but when you go in too hot, you never really took time to observe and assess the people. So I didn't realize I literally gave myself to the sharks. And I'm thinking, well, I'm going to give you my last, plate of food. And little did I know, shoot, it's like they could care less to feed me or check in on me. So, I am very proud to attract people like yourself. And I think a lot of people listening and watching can also resonate what life was like to have toxic people, but come out of a place where now we're attracting different types of people, different vibrations, different mentality. So, on your journey to success, because you do so much, I kind of watch some of your content on Instagram too, and even just your resilience to speak. On another episode with my girl Shelby, we talked about the power of our voice, right? Whether it's a God-given voice, the universe giving us talents. Man, Jess, like how the hell did you get so much courage to speak confidently? And then how did you even have the courage to speak on stage? Because I know I'll get there one day, but right now I'm not there. But I saw a clip of you speaking on stage. Where did you get that courage and how do you maintain that courage? Because you're incredible on stage.
Oh, girl. What they don't see behind the scenes is I cried every night for an entire week leading up to it. I didn't eat probably 24 hours in advance because I thought I was going to throw up. I had no idea. Oh, that actual talk that you saw on there, I went over in time, almost made the keynote speaker behind me miss his flight because I went over in time. They took me off stage and put me back on stage because people booed, but then they threw me back on. And I mean, when I tell you it was the most hilarious hot mess you've ever experienced in front of 20,000 people, there's the only way to get good at anything is to do it until you get good. You suck until you're good. You fall on your face 500 times. And I think the best part about that is that every single time. So the very first time that I ever got to speak and I got thrown onto a stage of like probably 100 people or so. Oh. And I was a kid. I was like 23, 24 years old. And I remember that talk like it was yesterday. It was hilarious. So I'm going through the slideshow presentation and my hand is shaking. I cried the whole entire night before. Like my eyes were all puffy. I could not eat. I felt like I was going to like vomit, pee on myself, everything you can imagine. Like my whole body was shutting down. My nervous system was like, I can't do this. And I get up on stage and I'm just like, God help me. And I'm take this clicker and I'm clicking through the entire slideshow on accident as I'm sharing my story. I'm not even like I've literally now gone through the whole slideshow presentation and I haven't even finished my story. And I look up and I'm on the last slide and I'm like, yep. If I can do this, anybody can do this. Yep. And so I'm like, okay, well, let's go back to the beginning of the slides. I got the formulator's name wrong for the presentation I was doing. I mean, like you name it. But at the end of it, I was like, wow, like I'm alive. I'm here. I'm okay. Everything's good. I'm nothing, I'm still here. The next time they asked me to do it, I was like, yeah, I can do that. And then I was like, okay, well, how do I get even better? And so I started to like watch all the people. So a lot of people would watch personal development or go watch like a, seminar or a TED talk and they'd be like, oh, well, I want to know what they're talking about. I wanted to observe how they were presenting the information. I was like, what keeps me engaged right now? What makes me actually want to continue to listen to this person? And I think for me, I already have like that playful nature. So I noticed that when I brought that out, people were like, they didn't expect it. And I would like be just making jokes or skipping across stage or like doing silly stuff. And then it would keep people engaged. Or I'd be like, hey, high five your neighbor. Your energy's low. High five your neighbor. Tell them they're awesome. Now high five me. Yep, let's go. And people would, and I could feel the energy shift. And then I was fed when they were fed energy, and I was like, okay, this is fun. And so it was a lot of trial and error and just kind of like figuring it out. But still to this day, there is not a time where I'm not nervous. There's not a time where I don't feel like my whole body is going to shut down. I think I've just learned now that we have access to this chi, this energy, this breath within us, that if you tap into it and breathe in for 4, hold for 4, and release for 4. And if you do that 10, 15 times before you're going to walk into anything where you feel like your nervous system's going to shut down, you're centered again. And if you do that, I think that's probably my first tip. My last tip would probably be, it's not me talking, and it's never me talking. And the bigger the crowd, every single level that I went, I still was more scared and more scared and more scared. That never went away. I'm still scared to this day, whether it's 5 people or 20 people or 1,000 people or 20,000, I'm still terrified. Every time I walk out, I say to myself, please, God, speak through me. This isn't me anymore. Like, speak through me and let me touch or say just one person and make an impact in whatever way that I'm supposed to make an impact. So.
That's so good. I amen to that. Now that gives me a lot of courage. And I know people listening right now, maybe they want to be a speaker, maybe they want to have a podcast. So for you to even be so candid and be like, no, Jane, sometimes I'm shaking. I might pee my pants. I don't even eat. I'm like, okay, I'm not alone. Because I tell my husband every time I press record, like, I kid you not, I don't know if it's the devil or the enemy, but maybe 5-10 minutes before, like, self-doubt just drowns me, and I'll be in a mood and I'm like, okay, I don't know what this is. And I actually start breathing. So it's so cool that you kind of shared the breathing technique. Yeah. And even as you're talking, I've been breathing silently, and it's just reminding me, be here, I'm alive, the house isn't burning. And just even acknowledging that we are tools, we are a bridge, we are just a vessel, right? So again, as you're talking, Jess, I'm like tripped out right now because I feel like a mirror or just echoes of things that I feel. But I think when we also remember that we are so small, respectfully, compared to God, the universe, the world, and beyond, it should comfort us, right? Like you said, it's not just me talking or you talking, but through us, we're getting superpowers from the divine to speak to even that 1 or 2 people. And so when you share it like that, it's giving me courage, and people listening and watching right now, okay, now I see how Jane started a podcast finally. Now I see how Jess is traveling the world and speaking and blessing people's lives. But I think ultimately when we can also humbly, accept that we're just a small piece of something bigger, it takes a little bit of the pressure off, because sometimes I get overwhelmed, like, oh, I might say something wrong, or maybe people think, oh, I'm unworthy. But kind of echoing everything we just shared up till this point right now, it's like I'm also learning to let go of people's opinions. And I saw a TikTok video recently, and I said this before on another episode, is people's opinions about you is none of your business. And when I first heard that, I'm like, ugh, that's a little harsh. But the more I talk about that, I'm like, no, Jane, you got to let go. So not just physically letting go of people, but even letting go of people's opinions, thoughts, perspective, because they're not sitting here with me. They're not having a conversation with me. So how dare they think, oh, she's just into beauty and fashion and makeup. So who the hell is she? Is she even certified to be a public speaker? It's like, I think we're missing the point. Like, you and I know our ultimate purpose, intention, and our deeper why. And so I feel like, again, I don't want to preach to people right now, but I think it's important for us as individuals to work on themselves. And we even talked about empathy. Is I'm learning to realize, like you said, people can only show up for you as much as they show up for themselves. And I didn't realize that I was around people that hated themselves, that were ashamed of themselves and insecure. And don't get me wrong, I've been there, but the more I'm healing and taking hard work and time to heal, I don't relate to that anymore. I don't connect to that. And I'm not saying I don't have empathy for that, but I'm so proud that I don't attract it or feel the need to be sitting in those places with people who are loathing in self-hatred, insecurity. Because even me, maybe it was an ego pride thing, I almost celebrated, oh, I'm just having a bad day, I'm having a bad life, I hate the way I look, blah, 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 blah. There's that toxic positivity. And sometimes we even are proud of being stuck and angry. And, you know, I don't want to use the word bitchy, but just like, I don't want to sit around the mean girl. Like some people take pride in that, like whether it's gossip or making fun of other people. And back to that childlike self, I'm like, how dare people make fun of people? Like, you really don't know what people went through. So just, you know, even yourself, like, how dare anyone say a mean comment to you or a mean comment to me? Like, oh, Jane, you know, that outfit or that hair, like, how dare you? You don't know what I went through to show up today. Same for you, good or bad. Like, how dare anyone comment like, oh, well, maybe Jess could have said it this way. So that's why, again, I am all about like positivity, words of affirmation, taking time to encourage us. Because again, even before we pressed record, I was just so excited to see you as a person. And so that's something that I really want to continue in my career and navigating through Vegas and beyond. Is I want to work on just seeing people as they are. And then when I get to know who they are and what they do, it's like, oh, wow, Jess, I didn't know this is what you do. Now we can get going and build this life and continue to keep each other accountable. Now, this might be an uncomfortable question, but have you ever been in a situation where people misunderstood you or just made assumptions about you? Because it's happened to me quite often. And how did you deal with false realities that people projected on you? Because I know that you're an amazing person. Just, you know, creating space with you right now, I can say you're an incredible human regardless. So I could care less what anyone has to say about you. But yeah, have you ever been in a situation where you did feel mistreated, misunderstood, misjudged? Because I know there are a lot of people that are just sitting silently and acting like these, you know, comments don't hurt. But I know there's a lot of very successful, very wealthy, healthy individuals that are hurting and affected by people's rudeness in this world.
I think we've all been there. I think we've all experienced it. I mean, I can't even tell you what I went through during COVID. Even just like my family kind of disowned me even during COVID, for a lot of reasons. And it's interesting. Everybody's got their opinions and their perspectives. I think perspective is just, it's one of the most beautiful things, because if you zoom out, like truly zoom out, whatever it is that we're worried about isn't really that serious in the big scheme of things, because there's somebody that's going through something that's 100 times worse. And I think that just staying in that perspective at all times, and that knowing that, yes, this feels big, this feels hard, this feels heavy, but somebody is on their deathbed right now fighting for their life, or there are people. And I think that this goes back to the amount of traveling and volunteering I've done in different places, that I've seen the most joyful humans where they have absolutely nothing. They don't even have real roofs over their heads. They're all living on one mattress. They are eating dinner on the floor, and they're just grateful to be alive. And I think having those experiences make it so that when there is a human being that has a perspective about me that I don't align with, I always look in the mirror to really ask myself how I can become better or take full responsibility, or why they might be perceiving that about me, because I'm very curious if there is something that I don't see, that there could be a blind spot there, that I'm very available to be checked. And I take full ownership and responsibility for the way that I show up in the world. And I always want to be the best version of myself for myself and others. I also have found myself bending and becoming, I am very much water sign, and I can bend for people and become what they want me to be and play into roles that I've had to learn, probably over the last couple of years, just setting boundaries to just stay really in tune with who I am, and allowing other people to, am I their cup of tea or am I not, versus, I know how to be everybody's cup of tea. That's, it's just been, that was a gift that I was given, but I also don't want to, that's not sustainable when it comes to a long lasting friendship or business relationship to always be playing into a certain role or be only a certain way and not fully myself. So I think when I'm being fully authentically myself and I'm showing up in my light and somebody doesn't resonate, I don't, or they don't resonate and they'd like to share that they don't resonate, I actually find it to be, what would be the word? I actually don't mind it any longer. I really don't mind it. And if there's hate coming towards me, I really try to find a lot of love because they're probably going through something and they are experiencing something internally that is being projected that really has nothing to do with me. And if I can show them love and break whatever that pattern is that they're experiencing and have them actually feel that love from me, then whatever that is they can actually come back home to themselves too. And if I'm loving on people in that way, then, even the toughest of, I'm thinking about reference points right now of like my family during COVID, and it was rough. Like I felt so abandoned in different ways. And then to like come back into a place where it was almost just kind of like forgotten, but nobody ever really apologized. So I had to just kind of be okay with walking back into that environment and not being seen or heard or apologized to. That took a lot of love on my end, and I had to tap into definitely God's love on that and make it something that I didn't hold a grudge or feel some kind of way about, which was very challenging. So I give it up to people that are going through this, that are experiencing this. I think we all go through this, but one, have perspective, because whatever you're going through is really not that freaking serious in the big scheme of things. You probably won't be worried about it 6 months from now. And if there's people on this earth that have it way worse off, then find gratitude for where you are and what you have going on. And two, it's probably has nothing to do with you. It probably has more of what's going on with them. And if you can love on them even harder, you can break that for them and actually bring them home to themselves. So I think that would probably be my answer to that.
Man, and you bring a lot of deep insight right now. And I know that you also specialize on mindset and, again, just very deep. And I know a lot of people listening and watching, they're probably thinking, wow, Jess is definitely more than just a pretty face, right? I already do that. But I really enjoy what you shared and kind of the reality and the truth of, expectations as well, adding to what you shared. Something I'm also learning is, yes, the emotional boundaries. Yes, understanding how to move like water. But I like what you said about also knowing like who you are and not bending too much. And, especially with family, in the first episode, again, there was just a lot of unspoken tragedy. But again, I was just crying the whole time because I didn't realize how much pain I was holding in. But abandonment is a very real thing. And I know a lot of people don't want to talk about abandonment issues and feeling like we don't matter as much as we matter. And I remember my therapist too, she kept bringing that up. She's like, you have severe abandonment issues. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, so sweet, so nice. I love everybody. She goes, yeah, but where does that come from? Like, where does your need to people please come from? Where does this need for you to be around so many people come from? Why don't you just sit in the corner where you belong sometimes so you can zen out and get back into your alignment and maybe you need to rest and recover, right? Fill your cup. But where does this need to be so loved and desired comes from? And at first I thought, okay, maybe it's just like my God-given gift. I love love and I love to be loved. But no, it was a dark motivator. And I don't want to admit this, but especially in my prior jobs in beauty, cosmetics, event planning, nightlife. Why, Jane? Why did you want to be so seen? Why did you always have to dominate over people? And at first I thought, I was defending myself. Oh, no. It's just how I was raised. I'm an overachiever and, I played professional golf. I'm Korean, I'm military. So, this is just how I was wired. And I could just sense, and I don't think I was mature enough then, Jess, but I could bluntly say I don't think I was mature or emotionally intelligent enough to realize it was from feeling abandoned. It's like I didn't care who I had to step over, not intentionally, but through my action of feeling abandoned. I didn't realize I was making people small. I didn't realize I was shoving people in their shadows. I didn't realize because it was the Jane show. And now through healing and taking time alone, again, this is not easy for me to confess out loud. I finally realized, like Jane, and maybe you've experienced this too, to be a light, to be a leader, to be a change maker doesn't mean you have to be the loudest one at the party. Doesn't mean you have to be the most flamboyant. But when you are true to who you really are, and we've talked about this too, just really tapping into what we really are and just be, the right people should start coming towards us. Not, hey, everybody, I'm amazing. I'm the light. I have so much to tell you. I can change your life. I can heal you. I had this syndrome. Like, I don't want to call it like a God complex, but I remember telling somebody like, oh, I'm like Mother Teresa meets Gandhi. Like, I don't think God wants me to run around saying that. But I guess what I was saying is because of my abandonment issue, I just wanted everyone to love me, even if I knew they were toxic and unhealthy. And that also includes family, whether it's blood or non-blood. So I'm really proud of you that even though during the pandemic and the COVID situation, that obviously it was not an ideal situation, but I'm very proud of you that you are continuing to overcome those dynamics. And obviously, I don't know too much about it, but I know a lot of people can resonate right now with friction and division from people they thought were family, blood or not. And so it's very humbling and spiritually humiliating to realize, okay, maybe I need to manage certain expectations, and maybe I need to simply take a step back. Like you said, it's not that serious, but I was very guilty of this, Jess, is I would blame other people instead of taking accountability and ownership. Is I would blame people like, oh, this person's rude, or this person's an asshole, or this person's a biatch. It's like, well, Jane, are you also projecting because you're not getting the response that you desire? Like, no offense, honey, maybe you're also part of the equation. And I would tell my husband every week, like, babe, I made a new friend. And then one day they gossip about me, or they don't invite me to a party or a dinner. And I'm like sitting here crying, and I'm like, oh, that I'm going to get him, or I'm going to prove to them. It's like, why are you so insecure? Like, why are you being such a child? So again, when we have these moments of revelation or just moments of acknowledgement, it can truly humble us. But have you ever had, a phase or a season or even a relationship where you wanted to blame everybody else, but it was really you? I know that's a very invasive question, but I'm just curious.
Yeah. I mean, I think every question you've asked, we all have experienced it at some point. So the reason that you're experiencing all of that is the same reason you told me earlier. You said, I never was seen because I was the middle child. That's perpetuating why you want to always be in all of these different scenarios and be seen, is because you never were back then. So but I also feel like, and I relate heavily when it comes to people pleasing, because abandonment is definitely a huge one. I think I'm like anxious attachment or something. So like if somebody I care about is moving away from me, I'm moving towards them as like a crashing wave of please don't leave me, So there's actually a really good book called Your Brain on Love that breaks all this down. That's just like phenomenal for relationships and phenomenal for understanding dynamics and the way that when we're raised, there's so many things that happen as far as us regulating our nervous system. And if we end up actually growing up where we are co-regulating our nervous systems with other people versus just, self-regulating, then we show up in relationship very different. For me, when I'm going through, trials and tribulations with someone or disagreeing, I want to go talk it out immediately. I want to go fix things right now. Whereas like I typically attract relationships where they actually are more of an island, where they need to go kind of revert inward and self-regulate, and they need time to process things. And I'm just like, 100 miles an hour, let's go. And I also feel abandoned when they retract. So there's so much to say about just, we all are so different and we all have so many different life experiences. And to be able to just sit back and actually observe how someone operates instead of assuming that they operate in the same way that we operate, it allows for us to have a better understanding of that person actually really is trying. They just aren't trying in the way that I would try because they don't have that reference point or understanding of how to do it in that way. So I think I already lost your actual real question, but I kind of went down some left turns. But I feel like there's a level of observation that I have learned over time because I was the wrecking ball that would show up in a room, and I have so much energy and I have so much excitement around meeting people that sometimes that could definitely be misperceived. At the same time, like my intent was always so great. And as I got older and started to like go through stuff in my life and just start to observe people, the more I could actually observe or ask questions and listen, the better I could actually meet someone and speak into their listening and be able to actually connect in a deeper way because I knew how to speak their language based off of observing and asking questions before jumping the gun too much. And that actually gave me an ability to connect even deeper, quicker with people that I was just meeting. So but that evolution took some time to figure out because I'm still am a wrecking ball. I'm still like so full of energy when I show up. It takes a lot to contain the excitement that I have when I'm in certain places. So I resonate heavily. Yeah.
No, and you did answer my question because when people misunderstand us or we misunderstand them, you hit it on the head. Oftentimes, whether it's us engaging with somebody or that somebody engaging with us, instead of observing and actively listening, maybe it's their body language or their eye contact, we just jump in and force our presence into their lives, right? And we have a very natural, unique gift where, I say this humbly, like people can't not see us, and it's our spirit. It's not even how we look, but it's just something that we've tapped into. That's something beautiful. And we've both talked about the journey to get here. So it hasn't been an easy one, but you literally hit it on the head is I think we need to take time to slow down, to process not just life and ourselves, but perhaps even as we encounter people, right? And even the way we first met, I'm actually glad we met the way that we met because you approached me and it started as a cute, innocent compliment, right? Like, oh, I love your outfit. But then that also gave you some space and time to process, okay, how is this individual going to respond? Is she going to give me sass and, give me the cold shoulder? Because I could have been like, yep, thanks, got it at TJ Maxx. Or I felt that childlike spirit and I wanted to engage. I wanted to play. And then we ended up talking for, I don't even know, 5-10 minutes. And then there was like a real video about the event and I'm just animated and talking. And I was actually talking to you. But just that excitement I saw on my face in that little short reel clip that they posted at that event, I was like, whoa, you really brought that out of me because I wasn't in that mood to play, to be honest. I went with another friend and we carpooled and I was just like in and out 5 minutes. If I don't really feel the vibe, I'm out. And then you walked into my presence. So I was like, whoa, that's so good. So I think too, for us to maybe not experience so much misunderstanding or just, misinterpretation, I will also choose to slow down, give people some time and space to, talk a little bit about them and feel them out. Because with that excitement from a place of abandonment, I'm sure you can relate. A lot of people can relate. It's like you just get so excited to have a friend. You just get so excited to play. But it's like maybe they don't like basketball. Maybe they don't want to go play at the playground. Again, as you talked about intention, our intentions are always pure. Of course they are, but maybe sometimes people are just not in the mood. Like I talked about, maybe some people, they're just not in the right place at the right time to receive all the wisdom that we have to give. So, I'm working on giving people some space to breathe because I know being a female, being a very, high performing individual like yourself, I'm sure you've run into situations where, girlfriends or people you love dearly, they're just not ready, right? They just want to have a moment and just kick it. Who knows why? But, have you ever had incidents too where you are trying to motivate people, you are trying to bring out the best in people, but they're just giving you this energy of like, who the F are you to tell me? And I don't really care. Leave me alone. That has to affect you because it's not you. It's not a reflection of you and your amazing, qualities. But have you ever experienced a moment where, whether it's a professional situation or personal, where they're just not getting what you're trying to give them?
I think at this point, I don't really give unless somebody really wants to receive. I definitely feel like there was times where I would want something more for someone than they wanted for themselves. I mean, in business, that was so hard because, everybody, especially back when I was doing network marketing, I mean, that industry, it was a volunteer army and everybody came and shared what they were so excited about creating for themselves that I emotionally enrolled myself in, and I wanted to help get them there. And then they may or may not have followed through. 75% of people join the gym in January and don't show back up. So it's like, you have to understand that with most people, like, they can say that they want something, but that doesn't actually mean that they want that. So I think the approach that I take now more than ever is more of, if I'm observing a blind spot that someone's, is experiencing, I really have to check in with myself too and ask myself, am I projecting anything from my end first? But also when they're experiencing that blind spot, I ask them the question of, hey, would you be open to me sharing a little blind spot that I think you might not see? You might see it, but I'm just curious if you'd be open with me sharing something. Or if somebody's telling a really horrific story about something, like if they're like, Jess, like, guys are just so hard in Vegas to date. Like, no, there's no good guys out there. There's nobody that wants to have, a real relationship. Friends are so hard to make. And they're telling me all these horrible stories. I'm just like, I don't cut them off, but I also smile to the point where they're like, Jess is about to say something. and I'm like, can we try something new on just for fun? Just try it on. You don't have to keep it. You just try it on. Are you down to try this on? And they're like, what? I'm like, what if we tried on that there's actually really dope humans in Vegas, and that my return to sender is on point. So everywhere I go and everything I do, I rendezvous with like really awesome people that are on the same wavelength, same vibe. They just get it. We just, we reflect back each other's light. It's just really cool. And guys, oh my gosh, like I don't know where they're all coming from, but man, I'm attracting so many beautiful humans into my experience. I'm so excited to play with. So I think when that story is reiterated in a way that they can try it on and they can choose that frame and run with it, throw that in their backpack to, keep in their truth backpack, or they can discard it and they can say, that's not my truth. This is my truth. I want to live in that. I want to live in that frame. And cool, be my guest. I personally am going to be honest. If you're going to talk about those types of stories around me, I'm going to probably say, I'm not available to listen to that story because I don't resonate with it. And it's not that you can't live in that way. I just personally don't want that programmed into me. But most people, I would say, and most people are, once they try it on, they're like, oh, that's better. I like that. But it's not me forcing them to be that or to try to change them. And I think that shift, it's so small, but that shift made it so that people are more open and available to actually seeing that new frame and then being like, yeah, I kind of like that one. Let me throw that one in the backpack. Okay, yeah. Cool. Thanks for that. Yeah. So I don't know. I think that's kind of my evolution, because man, I'd be in a straight jacket in a padded room if I would be crazy if I like kept my mouth shut for every single human being in my life that I wanted it more for them than they wanted it for themselves, and had to like just not say anything or say something. But I just noticed that people will not receive it. If the ultimate goal is for them to receive it, I have to find a way that I'm going to actually speak into their listening, that they're not going to reject it. What's that way going to be? And that's going to be not pointing at what they're doing wrong or trying to change them for the way that they see things. It's just escorting them very slightly over here and then giving them this new outlook and saying, how about just look at it like this? How does that feel? What do you think? Yeah? No? Okay. If you don't like it, you can discard it, but just try it on for 1 second. How's it feel? It's worked a lot better.
Yeah. And I even love like the verbiage of what you said is you're not saying, hey, Jane, I need you to change your entire outfit. It's more, hey, have you literally tried this? Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, what? Just like our fashion style, right? Maybe one day you're blonde, one day you're brunette. It's like, just try it on. I'm not saying you have to, but just try it on. And the reason why I asked that question is I know people personally, people listening and watching. Again, it could be professional and personal. We all encounter a certain someone that we love, that we cherish, we care for. And it's like, we want to change them or we want to fix them, especially relationships, marriages, and beyond. And so you hit it on the head. I got to get better at this too, because, I have a husband, surprisingly, and I like to tell him and I like to demand, and it's the Korean military in me, is I was very unaware of my verbiage, right? So I love the try it on. It's very playful. It's very childlike versus that sucks. You're going to do this. Yeah. Or God forbid, what's wrong with your personality? It's like, oh, I've had that before where someone just like pointed the finger. It was not good. So why the heck would I treat somebody such a way when I know how it feels? It's not fun. Right. So I love that. And it's no accident that you are as successful as you are. It's no accident that you're gifted in the specific path and lane that you're in. And, every first episode with every new guest, I want it to be more, fun, storytelling. And of course, your second time in, I want to dive deep into specific topics or ideas that you want to go into. But just even this first podcast episode with you, I'm just blown away. I'm sure a lot of people got to know you in a deeper way. And that is one of my greatest purpose of the podcast is I want people to see the childlike spirit inside of us. I want people to see like, oh, wow, this person also went through what I went through. Oh, I do connect with this person, because oftentimes people who are high performing or people who are leveling up in their lives, we're all guilty of it. Sometimes we envy them and we feel like we'll never get there. So I love how just transparent you've been. And when you mentioned about your public speaking, you keep it fun and you keep it childlike, and that's what keeps people engaged. I mean, you kept me engaged, and I know people listening right now, they're like leaning into what you had to share, and I hope they had pen and paper. If not, they can watch it again. But I really honor all that you are. In between time of you grinding, hustling, traveling the world, how do you practice self-care and self-love? Because I love to focus on, all the things we are doing, but I'm learning right now, sometimes doing absolutely nothing is okay, and that we shouldn't feel guilty for taking time. And I was ashamed for taking 2 months off from civilization. And I'm thinking, oh God, my bank account's looking low. And I'm looking at my husband like, I'm leaving. I'm going to go rob a bank. Not literally, but I was so anxious and uncomfortable, and I was fighting it, Jess. And finally, this last, not even a month, maybe a couple weeks, including the moment I met you, I'm like, Jane, you just got to surrender. I know you said that a few times in the beginning of this talk. Is Jane, when you surrender, you practice deep breathing. You are like you just are, and you're being for once in your life. Look at the things that are flowing. And I'm even having time to even see what's flowing. Because before, if I wasn't working 6 days a week, I felt like I was unworthy of life. If I wasn't making money, building those connections, knew me, all these things, then I felt like I was not worthy of life. So I want to take a moment too, as we kind of end this podcast. What are some key things that you do for self-care, and how do you wind down from like your awesome, crazy life?
So first off, I really want to share that I'm human and you're human and we're all human, and we have good days. We have bad days. We have good moments. We have bad moments. It's really the perspective of that moment. Because it's really not that bad if you zoom out and you're like, oh, is in the big scheme of things. But there's seasons for everything. And there's seasons that I've been, successful. And then there's seasons that I have been, I've retracted completely. I like moved to Hawaii for 3.5 years and just like woke up, and after 10 years of major cities, I just really wanted to wake up and hike and meditate. And I was going through a lot of internal things that I wanted to just sit on a mountain and just talk to myself and be in quiet. And, there's times where I've had so much in my bank account, and there's times where I've had nothing in my bank account on this journey of life over the last decade. And it has not, I will say I've not attached my identity. I used to, but I don't attach my identity to a energy that's sitting in my account. And I think that it's really important for us to not do that. Our identity is something that I really want to, that is the number one thing. We're always going to live up to whatever that identity is. So however we really see ourselves, we will always live up to that. So if you want a new level up in your life, then you need to create a brand new identity around what that would look like, and then start stepping into what that will be like. And I'm doing that for myself right now because I've actually been very aware of new patterns I'm aware of patterns that I'm not available to continue. And I do it because I know that I've mastered something to a certain level. And then I'm like comfortable there. So I don't find myself stretching any further. And when I stop stretching, that's when I start declining, because I know I can get back, whether it's going on a trip and eating whatever I want. And I'm like, oh, whatever, I'll lose the 5 pounds when I get back. Or whether it's like going and working my tail off and financially, getting ahead. And then I'm like, I'm going to go travel for a few months and I'm tired and then I'm going to disappear. And then I'm going to let all of that momentum kind of die down. So there's parts of me that I'm like recreating this identity for myself right now on what this optimized version of Jess looks like, which is creating new self-care, new, times for me to cognitively unload. I think it's horrible, this like hustle mentality that we've created. Yet at the same time, it's like, yes, focus and attention and intention are extremely important in order to create something. Like, you have to go all in and put your focus and attention and intention into something. Get your AI in check, attention and intention. And you have to have velocity and speed with that. That's what creates something. Thought to a thing. It's very important. Yet there needs to be an understanding that if you go to the gym 7 days a week and you lift heavy, the same body part, you're now doing worse for yourself than better. You're not getting to the desired result that you want by not taking those 2 rest days. Those 2 rest days are so important and valuable for your body to recover, your muscles to recover, for you to show up again and then have more of an overload after that. Our brain is the same. And we don't even realize that we're cognitively overloading ourselves by going 100 miles an hour and then not stopping and recovering. It's important. It's not just important. It's like, you want your brain to show up and you want to be the vessel. You want to be able to deliver at the highest level. You want to be able to show up in your light. You want to be able to reflect things back to people. You have to have energy to do that. And you have to have like an opportunity to cognitively unload and reflect on different things that are going on in your world. And that has been a very, very intentional thing that I've added into my life. Does not come easy at all. So if you are a type A person or someone that goes 100 miles an hour, has the same energy, then you need to make sure that you create structures for yourself to slow down. Yesterday, I fasted all day. I went to church, I fasted all day, and I went on a hike in nature. And that was one of those days where I actually probably would have in the past had somebody come with me. And I said, Jess, this is your opportunity to have time to self-reflect and to get out in nature and to actually do something where you get to think, you get to slow down, you get to cognitively unload. Going and binging Netflix all night is not cognitively unloading. You're stimulated. Your brain's still operating. But it's very challenging to sit still when we haven't sat still in a long time. And that's when all the stuff comes up. That's when you're like, oh gosh, I have to like face those things that are happening in my life. I have to take responsibility for those things that I've been avoiding and not looking at, So slowing down is challenging at times because you actually have to look in the mirror too. So it's not always fun, but I think creating opportunities, like for me, like I said, I have my being friends and I have my doing friends. So I learn a lot from my girlfriend, Fiona. She's a psychotherapist, but she's the ultimate beer. Like this girl, she will paint for 10 hours straight. And I don't know if I can paint for 10 hours straight, but I now paint because of Fiona. So I'm like, oh, this is fun. Let's paint. I never thought to go paint, but now I'm painting, and meditation is a huge one. Even if you take like a good, I don't know, if you're at work and you can feel your nervous system is on overdrive. If you just take 5 minutes and do the deep breaths, like the 4 in, hold for 4 and then release for 4. If you just do 10, 15 of those, and then you actually close your eyes and you tune into the now moment that you're in, and you find a couple of things that you can be aware of in your surroundings to just kind of ground you in the now, and find, smile and get tuned into something that you're grateful for. And, this sounds silly and this sounds like, all of the things, but I'm telling you, if you actually slow your mind down, you operate at such a higher level that it gives you, when you tap into flow state, the studies that they're doing right now in flow state, read the book, Art of the Impossible, if you're listening to this, the studies that they're doing with tapping into flow state, it's some of the most fascinating research to me, because, and the people that have access to this research and the people that have access to this information are people that are high level in Google, high level in like YPO or Deloitte or the military. That's who's actually bringing in this type of research to work with, because they understand the value of productivity, creativity, and being able to tap into this flow that essentially collapses time and space and allows for you to the 10,000 hours rule that they have about being an expert in something. They've actually done studies where you can have 5,000 hours instead of 10,000 hours if you're doing it in flow state. You have access to learning in a different way. So all of the boxes that I was put in for ADD my whole life, or ADHD, those boxes can be completely broken for kids, and they can actually, if the environment is conducive, they can tap into flow state, and they don't have to be, this hyperactive, whatever. They're just not, their environment's just not supporting them being in that space. So of course they're not showing up in that way. Just like I wasn't, when I was a kid, I got sent to the, principal's office for talking too much in class, or for, always being whatever. And so these types of things, they're being finally brought more. So if you seek out the knowledge, it's being brought more into the mainstream now. I'm at least digging into that research and seeing, like, I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys, we have to, you could go to work on Monday and not actually have to go to work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. If you actually, they say, I know I'm throwing a bunch of hilarious stats at you right now, but they say that an average American works focused and fully in their flow state for 11 minutes a day. 11 minutes a day. So if we actually showed up in flow state for Monday, we wouldn't need Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. If we actually showed up in flow state more of the time, we'd get if we had flow state 3 hours a day, we'd get 8+ hours back a week. And that 8 hours, we could go do a million other things to reset our minds, to actually cognitively unload and slow down, and to be more present, to be more connected to our friends and family and the things that are more meaningful to us in our lives. And it's just, we're so stimulated. I didn't realize how stimulated I was until I was removed from LA and Miami for 10 years, thrown into Hawaii. And then I was like, oh my gosh, when I go back to these places, I feel the energy around me. There's actual real stimulation happening just by our phones being here and not being on do not disturb. You see that, and that's pulling our attention and focus away. That's preventing us from being able to tap into those states. So, just a fun little tip. If you want to tap into flow state, the first thing in the morning when you actually just wake up, that's the easiest time to kind of just be right into it. When we start revving our minds up a little bit, it's a little bit harder, and also when you tap into purpose and meaning, something greater than yourself, then it also gives you the ability to do work from a different energy. It feels less efforting. The more we can remove things from our experience that prevent us from being in flow, it's not about doing more to tap into flow. It's about actually removing things from our experience that prevent us from being in that space. Like if we're a Wi-Fi network, we have all of these people on our network and we're like, why is our speeds not, rapid? And you're like, well, you got to pluck some people off your Wi-Fi network. You got to pluck some things off your Wi-Fi network. And then your bandwidth is being weighed down right now. So you can't tap in fully. So cognitively unloading, or self-care, is that opportunity to pluck things off of your network so that you can actually show up in your light and you can actually be 100 times more productive, creative. That's another fun stat is they say that to be an entrepreneur and a CEO in today's day and age, the number one attribute and trait to have is creativity. And creativity is very hard to challenge and challenging to tap into without tapping into flow. And curiosity is the fastest way to be excited about learning about something new. Curiosity leads to that space of creativity and purpose and meaning. And I could go on and on and on.
No, but like this was a very necessary tangent because this explains why so many people are burnt out. So as you were talking, I was connecting the dots because last year, oh man, or even like my whole life until right now, I've never been so quote unquote successfully drained. And so it makes sense when you're like, no, it's all about being intentional and going in that state flow. So I got to make sure you write down like the book names and I'll put it in the link so that people can check it out. I know I have to read it too.
Recovery is just as important as going all in.
I love that.
And if you do not recover, you actually can't go all in again in the same way.
Okay. That's
so
good.
You have to almost frame it in a way like you're actually doing more harm than good.
Mm-hmm.
So then you actually create the construct to play. Fiona and I call it childproofing. We're like, we have to childproof our life so that when we work so wholeheartedly, but when we play so wholeheartedly. We give ourselves those opportunities to reset so that we can go back into it with even more excitement and momentum, and we're not as burnt out.
God, no, that's good. You literally like answered so many questions I had because I felt so burnt out and so drained and just angry at the world. And you kind of already answered some of the questions, but as we wrap up, I always tell every guest, what would be like 3 life lessons you would tell your younger self?
Oh, girl. Oh, I have to throw something in for that last one too.
Yeah.
That last one, exercise. If we are not changing your state, it is very challenging to stay in flow if you are not exercising. And if you don't push thresholds of something in your life, like if you don't create something that you can push yourself through that at least tests yourself every single week, I would say way more than once a week. But if you can put yourself in an environment where you have to dig deep, that's where the grit and the resiliency is going to come from to be able to actually go and hit things in your life. If you don't build that, then our physiology is going to be working against us to hold us back from keeping us away from the edge and from actually progressing in our life in the way that we need to. For me, fitness is that kills 2 birds with 1 stone, pushes thresholds for me, and it changes my state, and it gives me all of the endorphins that I need. And it just also brings so much energy into my experience that makes me show up, and it translates into business 100-fold. So I wanted to make sure I said that self-care is my number one self-care. So I actually hold myself hostage to doing the most important tasks of the day because I want to work out so bad, not because I enjoy the actual act of working out, because the actual act of working out is not that enjoyable really. But the feeling I have after and the feeling I get from doing and just the discipline and the proof to myself that I can follow through and it makes me feel my best. That is something that I can genuinely say I hold myself hostage. I'm not allowed to go work out until I've done these things because I've realized that it's like my escape now. Like I escape and go work out before I do all the important stuff of my day. So it's hilarious. So either way, I would say making sure self-care, you have to do the things that give you energy. And when somebody says follow this 5-step process of how you get to this, people can only speak from their experience. And if we understand that our biology, every single one of our biology is different, every single one of our biologies are different. And what I ate this morning and what you ate this morning actually changed your biology. What we ended up doing throughout the day changes your biology. And so what we're all experiencing, my things won't serve you every time. Like it just won't. So you have to go play and figure out what those things are for you. Every single person is different. Some people really get inspired late at night and they need to honor that. And some people get inspired first thing in the morning. I'm not a morning person. I know that about myself and that's okay. But I honor that about myself and I create that structure for myself that honors that. But a lot of times we like beat ourselves up. Oh, why we do this or why? Okay, we're either operating from pain or pleasure. So if you want to do something, but you're watching yourself not do it, then you're obviously getting more pleasure from not doing it. And for some reason, I would observe that and figure out what that is. And for whatever reason, there's more pain in going to do that. So figure out what it is that is going to give you more of that pleasure or make you motivated a little bit more by pain to go do that thing that you want to add in. Or for me, it's like this filter that I create around my identity. What would most optimized version of Jess that thinks this way, that wants this outcome, that's excited about creating this life, what would she do? And then I kind of like, oh man, she probably wouldn't do that. She probably wouldn't eat that. She probably would. Oh yeah. Okay, fine. And am I going to fall on my face and like revert back? Of course it happens, but I don't beat myself up over it. I just am very observant of how do I not fall into too much of a pattern around it. Okay, now back to your other question, because I just want to make sure we finish self-care.
No, I love it. Just like if you could look at your younger, young self and give her 3 life lessons or just 3 wisdom. My therapist always asks, like, would you talk to your little self like that? I'm like, ouch. So what would you, like if you were to face little Jess?
Nothing is really that serious. We are silly little humans spinning around in space, being held on by gravity. And I think like if I were to really talk to my younger version, I would tell her to continue to follow her highlighted path because it has always served. Follow your intuition, follow your highlighted path. Never ever lose that spark that like it may, dim at times and you may need to lean into others to reignite. But it will always come back. And I think that just knowing that you're going to go through so many deaths and rebirths of who you think you are or where you think you're going or what you think you're going to be doing, that creating that detachment from what that picture is going to look like, yet staying very true to that essence of what like is just that seed in your heart that was planted for a reason, like that meaning and purpose, like stay true to that essence, but be flexible on the journey of what that looks like. Never ever lose sight, but be more flexible with that journey, always following the highlighted path, but never taking things so serious. Like it's just not that serious. Like everything is just, there's somebody always has it worse. You can always find a new perspective. You can always just change your vantage point and create a new lighter load. And on the other side of dark, there's always light. And oh man, I don't even know. I mean, my younger self, I think I would tell her, go on the self-awareness journey, observe more. Just love. I love people so much, but I think back then I really only saw from my lens and I could only see from that space. So it prevented me from connecting and understanding people in the way that I feel like I've learned now. Yet I never, ever, ever will arrive. Like I will never feel like I am at a certain place, because the second I have ever felt that, I've been quickly humbled and to realize that I have not arrived to anything. And so for me, and I think it's just be a good human. Just continue to be a good human, and everything else will unfold beautifully.
Man, no, thank you so much. And just like, this was probably one of the deepest, most in-depth episode I've had yet. Well, it makes sense with what you do for a living, but thank you so much for just opening up your soul with me. And I'm really looking forward to the next episode. You have no idea. Just like, as I look into your eyes, we could talk for endless hours. But you guys listening and watching, thank you so much for just your time. And I hope you learned so much from our girl. She is just full of so many nuggets of wisdom. And I know that this will be an empowering episode. So thank you so much. And until next time, you guys, protect your peace, keep shining, and we'll see y'all soon.